I asked Declan for a divorce. I don't want anything, I said, except the money. Declan sneered. Not even your beloved son? No? Not even him. Because my child's 5th birthday wish had been, can Dad and Mom get a divorce? I want Aunt Fiona to be my mom. I handed Declan the divorce papers. He glanced at them like they were just another routine document on his desk. His eyes were cold, indifferent. Any passion he once had for me probably only existed in those endless nights. Adeline, pick a better time to throw a tantrum. This is the office, he said. He was convinced I wouldn't go through with it. Just another attempt, he thought, to make him jealous. I'm not causing a scene, I replied. But I was, or so they said, just for waiting 3 hours in the reception like a common visitor, enduring the pitiful looks. Miss Fiona, of course, never had to wait. So it's true? Mr. Declan really doesn't like his wife? Yes, someone whispered. He's always liked Fiona. I want a divorce, Declan. The sooner the better. Adeline, what are you doing? Only then did he lower his eyes to the papers. You really want to divorce me? For this small amount of money? Yes. When I got pregnant accidentally, Declan offered that exact amount to make me disappear. But I didn't leave. Because I wasn't from this world. Having Finn and marrying Declan was a mission assigned to me. No matter how hard I tried, I could never warm Declan's heart. This money now, it was compensation. 50 million meant nothing to him. But to me, it was enough to buy freedom. Declan stood up. Towering in his tailored suit, he looked down at me, sneering again. Just the money. Not even your beloved son? I gave a faint smile. No. Not even him. I had loved Finn. After all, he carried my blood. For 5 years, I gave him all my patience, all my care. But maybe because of Declan, I could never bring myself to love him unconditionally. Declan only glanced at Finn once after he was born and said, "He looks like Adeline," then handed him to the nanny. But strangely, Finn adored Declan. He had a gift for language. At 3, he sternly told me, "It's your fault Dad doesn't come home." At 4, he met Fiona, who had just returned from her divorce abroad. He came home and told the nanny. No wonder Dad likes Aunt Fiona. I like her too. She's nicer and makes me happier than Mom. All because I didn't let him eat too many sweets. He had pouted angrily. I came out of the kitchen and heard it all. I tried to stay calm. "Finn, I'll make you new candies. Pear and hawthorn, sweet and healthy." He grabbed the treats I made, threw them in the trash. "I don't want your garbage. I want the fancy ones Fiona brought from Italy." He looked just like Declan, cold, ungrateful. Especially on his 5th birthday, when both father and son invited Fiona. As the candles were being lit, the long-absent voice of the system suddenly echoed in my mind. "Host, it's been a while. I'm back." I stepped outside instinctively. "Your task is complete. You've earned enough points to return. You can stay if you want. You have a family here. In your original world, you're alone." I hesitated. And then Finn made the decision for me. I had just stepped back inside the hall when I heard his birthday wish, loud, clear, with no effort to hide it. "Can Dad and Mom get a divorce? I want Aunt Fiona to be my mom." Fiona laughed, trying to cover her glee with her hand. "Oh, you can't say things like that, sweetheart." But her eyes sparkled. I smiled faintly and said to the system, "Take me home. I don't want to stay another second." But the system hit me with bad news. Due to transfer overload, there's now a waiting period. I was stunned. "Like your human divorce law," the system added. "You have to wait." "Wait for what? How long?" 3 years. 3 years? Are you afraid I'll rot in the meantime? The system replied, "As compensation, I'll add 30% extra points so you can redeem a healthier body when you wake up." Fine. I'll get the divorce first. That's why I'm standing in Declan's office again. "Declan, let's divorce." He lit a cigarette and blew out a smoke ring. "Adeline, did you forget? 5 years ago, you said you'd die without Finn." I remembered. That was when Fiona got married abroad. Declan had tormented me for an entire night. I got sick, ran a high fever alone for 3 days. In my haze, I forgot to take that kind of medicine. I got pregnant. With Finn. Declan wanted me to abort. But the system warned me, aborting now means mission failure. You know the consequences. I begged him. If I lose the child, I'll die. Declan, always ruthless, even to himself, only ever had a weakness for Fiona. They grew up in the same orphanage. She once saved his life. Later, she was adopted by a wealthy family. Declan rose from nothing, hoping one day to win the favor of Fiona's adoptive parents. But just before he gave her the pink diamond, she got married. And much later, I learned the real reason Declan proposed to me. Fiona had said, "Declan, I'm married now. I hope to hear good news from you." I looked at his handsome face and thought, I hope I never see you again. I'm doing you a favor, I said. You and Finn like Fiona. After the divorce, you can be a happy family. Declan narrowed his eyes. He tilted my chin with his fingers, then sneered. Playing hard to get? Fine. Add a clause. After the divorce, without my permission, you can never see Finn again. A threat. Once, that would have destroyed me. But I don't love anyone anymore. So I have no weakness. Fine, I said calmly. He hesitated, then signed and threw the copy at me. I picked it up and turned to leave. Get out of the Declan house tonight, he muttered. I paused at the door and smiled. The divorce certificate isn't final yet. You're kicking me out early? Pay the alimony in advance. Thank you. He was furious, but I knew him. He was generous with money. The 50 million would arrive by morning. Good. Watching me walk away without looking back, Declan felt uneasy. Mr. Quinn entered. Boss. Is Adeline really divorcing you? Declan exhaled smoke. She's bluffing. She won't leave Finn. Mr. Quinn chuckled. She loves you both too much. Probably just needs a little coaxing. No need. She'll be back in 3 months, begging for forgiveness. But as he looked out from the 30th floor, at the city lights flickering below, he remembered Adeline's red eyes years ago. Declan, I'm not just doing this for the mission. I really like you. She had trembled beneath him like a frightened rabbit. Now she was walking away. And for the first time, he wasn't sure she'd ever come back. Declan thought I was bluffing. Even after I signed the divorce papers with steady hands, even after I walked out of his office without shedding a single tear, he still believed I would crawl back, because of Finn. Because of the child I had raised, loved, and devoted my life to for 5 long years. But he didn't understand. When love dies, so does fear. I returned to the house we used to share, no, the house he let me live in. My steps were quiet, calculated. I wasn't packing memories. I was packing necessities. I had one small suitcase. Clothes I had bought with my own money. A few books. My journals. I left behind the pearls, the dresses, even the gifts I once thought meant something. They didn't. I wasn't halfway through the hallway when I heard the familiar clicking of candy wrappers on the marble floor. Finn sat cross-legged in the living room, eyes glued to a tablet. His little fingers swiped across the screen while his mouth chewed on bright-colored sweets. Aunt Fiona gave these to me. Dad said I can have as many as I want, he said without even looking up. Don't start lecturing me. I smiled, though my heart had long since stopped aching. I'm not here to lecture, I said softly. Eat 100 if you like. It's your teeth. That made him pause. He glanced up, confused by the tone. But I had already crouched down, brushing his cheek with my fingertips one last time. I'm leaving, Finn. Where to? I'm making space for your new mom. His little brows furrowed. Mom, don't say dumb things. Dad said you're an orphan too. You have nowhere else to go. So stop pretending. I stood up, biting back any reaction. Be well, Finn. He didn't respond. Just resumed his game. I didn't tell him that this was his last chance to stop me. I rolled my suitcase to the door and opened it without hesitation. The Declan household, once my entire world, stood cold behind me. No one tried to stop me. Not even the nanny who had once thanked me for defending her against Fiona's harsh tongue. Everyone had chosen their side. I checked into a modest hotel downtown. Not luxurious, not poor, just quiet. Quiet enough to hear myself think. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, unsure what emotion I was supposed to feel. Relief? Bitterness? Emptiness? The system buzzed in my head like static. Host, you're in the post-mission stage. Please remain in this world until your exit transfer is approved. How long again? I whispered aloud. 3 years. 3 years of waiting. 3 years of rebuilding. I stared at my reflection in the mirror above the desk. I looked older than I remembered. Not physically, but in the eyes. I had tried everything to make Declan love me. Smiles, patience, sacrifices. But nothing could compete with his devotion to Fiona. And now, I was done competing. The next morning, a message popped up on my phone. Bank deposit, $50 million. Compensation complete. It was strange how numbers on a screen could feel so heavy. But I wouldn't waste it. This money wasn't just a payout, it was my beginning. I found a small apartment overlooking the river. Nothing grand, but it had sunlight in the mornings and silence at night. That was all I needed. I used the money to quietly enroll in business courses. After all, I had spent 5 years watching a corporate mogul operate. Declan didn't realize he'd been giving me a silent education every time I sat through a board dinner or read over his shoulder. If I was going to exist here for 3 more years, I would do it on my terms. And maybe, just maybe, I'd become someone Declan could never touch again. Back at Declan's office, Quinn returned with a puzzled look. Sir, he said carefully, Mrs. Adeline's hotel check-in has been confirmed. She's not at the estate. And her personal account shows she's already moving funds. Declan looked up from his desk. So? I just thought she'd be back by now. Declan didn't answer. He tapped his pen on the table, then stood and walked to the window. From the 30th floor, he could see the entire skyline. But what he didn't see was Adeline's shadow anymore. She'll come back, he muttered. She left the boy, Quinn said. Declan's jaw clenched. She was bluffing, wasn't she? He had broken many women's hearts before, but they all came back, begging, crying, hoping. But Adeline hadn't cried. Not once. That was the most terrifying part. She looked free. I didn't look back as I stepped into the evening air, suitcase in one hand and silence clinging to my heels. The sky was turning lavender, just like the first day I arrived in this world. But this time, I wasn't walking into someone's life, I was walking out. No driver was arranged. No maid came to plead. I hailed a taxi myself, settled into the back seat, and whispered, anywhere but here. As the car rolled away from the imposing iron gates of the Declan estate, I felt something loosen inside me. Not quite relief. Not quite grief. Just space. Space where pain had lived too long. The taxi driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Bad breakup? He asked casually. Something like that. He nodded knowingly. Sometimes letting go is the only way to start again. I watched the lights pass, neon signs blinking over a city I had never explored, too busy playing the role of a wife, a mother, a ghost. I asked to be dropped off at the riverside. I wanted to feel the wind. The night was cool. I sat on a bench overlooking the dark water, my suitcase by my side. I didn't cry. There were no more tears left in me. Just questions. Who was I if not Declan's wife? Who was I if not Finn's mother? The system buzzed faintly in my mind, its presence always there, like a pulse under my skin. Host, you have 38 months remaining before the portal opens. I know, I murmured. I'm not going to waste it. The next day, I used part of the settlement money to rent a small, sunlit apartment on the east side of the city. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I filled the kitchen with food I liked, bought bedding in colors I actually enjoyed, and placed a small succulent near the window just because I wanted something living around me. I enrolled in a digital marketing course. If I had 3 years here, I would build something. Something just for me. Each morning, I set an alarm. I made coffee. I studied. I went for walks. No more waiting in hallways for Declan. No more listening to Fiona's name whispered like a prayer in my own home. But healing wasn't linear. Sometimes I dreamed of Finn calling me childish. Sometimes I remembered Declan's voice in the dark, low and cruel. Sometimes I almost texted him, out of habit, not hope. And every time I caught myself, I reminded myself of my goal. Live, quietly. Completely. 3 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. Hello? Silence. Then a voice I hadn't expected to hear so soon. Adeline, Declan. I didn't answer. I just wanted to know where you took Finn. My heart paused, then restarted with a strange rhythm. I didn't take him, I said flatly. He's with you. Declan hesitated. He said you disappeared without saying goodbye. I told him I was leaving. He didn't care. Another silence. Then, softer, he's only 5. And he made his wish loud and clear. He wanted Fiona. Now he has her. Declan's voice hardened. Are you seriously blaming a child? No. I'm blaming the father who let him treat me like a maid. I never. You did, I said, cutting him off. You let him ignore me. You never corrected him. You laughed when he mocked me. You invited Fiona to his birthday and let him humiliate me in front of everyone. He didn't speak. You always thought I'd stay, I whispered. That I'd endure anything for love. But I'm done being your placeholder. Then I hung up. I stood still in my little apartment, letting the silence settle again. That was the first time I realized Declan wasn't calling to bring me back. He was calling because, for the first time, I wasn't waiting for him. And that scared him. Later that night, I sat by my laptop and opened a blank document. At the top, I typed one word: blueprint. If I had 3 years left in this world, I would build something so unshakable, even Declan would remember me, not as a shadow, but as the storm that passed through his life, quietly, and never returned. My days began to take on a rhythm. Not the rhythm of servitude or waiting, but of becoming. Each morning, I woke before the sun, brewed my own coffee, and reviewed the previous day's study notes. I wasn't doing it to impress anyone. There was no Declan watching. No Finn needing help with homework. No Fiona's shadow at the edge of the room. Just me. The digital marketing course I enrolled in turned out to be more than I expected. I was good at it. Better than I realized. Strategy came naturally. Presentation design. Market research, optimization. I had spent 5 years in the background of corporate meetings, quietly observing. Now I saw it for what it had always been, my training. 3 weeks into the course, one of the instructors posted a freelance job in a forum. A local eco-beauty brand needed someone to run their online launch campaign. I applied on a whim. I didn't even include a resume, just a proposal and a 5-slide pitch deck I made overnight. They called me the next day. We've hired marketing agencies before, said the brand manager, a woman named Mara. But your deck was sharp, personal, clean. Are you available to start Monday? Yes, I said, my voice calm. She didn't know she was giving me my first chance. And I didn't tell her that I used to serve coffee in boardrooms while men like Declan presented less compelling strategies. I just thanked her and got to work. Declan, meanwhile, was unraveling. He didn't show it publicly, he never would. But Fiona noticed. You've been distracted, she said one evening as they dined together. Still thinking about her? Declan didn't answer. He sipped his wine slowly. The restaurant lights gleamed off the rim of the glass. I don't get it, Fiona pressed, adjusting the diamond bracelet on her wrist. You used to say she was dull, soft, boring. Declan stared at the condensation dripping down the wine bottle. She left, he said. So. She left without begging. That silence between them was heavier than any argument. Declan, Fiona said more gently, you were always chasing. Even when we were kids in the orphanage. Maybe you're not upset she left. Maybe you're upset you didn't get to leave first. He glanced at her, startled. She smiled, but her eyes were sharp. Adeline was never a threat to me, Declan. She was just background. But now, you're staring at the door she walked through like you weren't the one who opened it. Declan didn't reply. Because she was right. I built my portfolio slowly. One brand turned into 2. A friend of Mara's called. Then another referral. By the 2nd month, I had clients on retainer. I filed for a business license under the name Aster and Ember Digital, named after 2 things that survive harsh conditions and still burn bright. I built a simple website, added testimonials, and rented a co-working desk downtown. No one there knew me as Declan's ex-wife. I wasn't someone's mother. I was Adeline, the founder. One afternoon, I passed a mirror on the way to the break room and stopped. I looked different. Not younger. Not more beautiful. Just alive. No one had called me Adeline Declan in weeks. And I didn't miss it. Then, one evening, my phone rang. The number was familiar. Not Declan's. Finn's school. I hesitated before answering. Hello? Miss Adeline, I know this may be awkward, said the vice principal, but Finn insisted we call you. He had a bit of a conflict during dismissal today. My breath caught. Is he okay? Yes, he's fine, she assured me. Just a bit. Emotionally charged. There was a small altercation with another student, and when asked who he wanted us to call, he refused to give us Mr. Declan's number. He said, only my mom can fix this. I was silent. Should we notify Mr. Declan? She asked. I paused, then said, no. I'll come. When I arrived at the school, Finn sat alone on a bench outside the office, kicking his feet. He looked up and froze when he saw me. You really came, he whispered. I said I was leaving, not vanishing, I replied gently. His eyes filled with something, pride, confusion, regret. He didn't say sorry. But he didn't need to. I sat beside him. He leaned into me without a word. And for the first time in weeks, I let my hand rest on his back. I wasn't here as Declan's wife. I wasn't here because of a mission. I was here because I chose to be. And that made all the difference. Finn didn't say much on the drive to my apartment. He stared out the window, his small hand clutching the strap of his backpack, face unreadable. I didn't press. Sometimes silence speaks louder than explanations. When we arrived, he looked around curiously. This is where you live now? Yes. It's small. It's enough. He hesitated at the door. Can I come in? You're already here, aren't you? I smiled gently and opened it. He stepped inside and looked around. No servants. No sprawling staircase. No expensive chandeliers. Just one clean living room, a table with my laptop, a few open textbooks, and the faint scent of ginger tea. You don't have a TV? I do, I said, pointing to the modest screen mounted on the wall. But I don't use it much. He sat on the couch and stared at his hands. I punched Liam today. I sat beside him. Why? He said I don't have a mom anymore. That Aunt Fiona is my new one. He said, you abandoned me. I swallowed. And what do you believe, Finn? He was quiet for a long time. Then he whispered, I don't know. I didn't blame him. 5-year-olds shouldn't have to question loyalty, but he'd been taught early that love was conditional. That presence meant possession. That absence meant indifference. You said you didn't want me. I said I didn't want to stay where I wasn't wanted. Dad said you left me for money. I sighed. Did he also say I raised you alone for 5 years while he worked late and brought Fiona to dinner? Finn looked up sharply. You're mad. No, I said softly. I'm tired. He looked at the cup of tea on the table. Can I have one? Only if you promise not to toss it in the trash. He flushed and nodded. I made him a cup. Not too hot. With a bit of honey. He sipped it in silence. Then, as if unsure of his own voice, he asked, Can I sleep here tonight? Just tonight, I said. He nodded, and I brought out spare pajamas, still folded from the day I moved in. I had prepared, even if I told myself not to. That night, I tucked him into the small second bed I'd set up in the corner of the room. Mom, yes? I didn't mean it. When I said I wouldn't miss you. I sat by the edge of the bed and brushed his hair back from his forehead. I know. He closed his eyes. Your place smells like candy pears. That's because I made them this morning. He didn't respond. He was asleep. The next morning, I walked him back to school. We didn't talk much, but he held my hand the whole way. When we reached the gate, he finally let go. Will I see you again? Whenever you need me. He smiled a little. Not quite an apology. Not quite forgiveness. But something close. That afternoon, I received a call from Declan. I let it ring. He called again. I silenced it. On the third attempt, I answered. What? You took Finn. He called me. He asked for me. He's my son. And mine. But unlike you, I came when he called. Declan's voice tightened. You're trying to win him over. No. I'm trying to give him the stability neither of us managed to provide. I don't need him to choose. But I won't let you erase me from his life just because you feel inconvenienced. There was a pause. You sound different. That's because I am. I ended the call. I wasn't angry. I was done explaining myself. That weekend, I landed another major client. A tech startup looking for a rebrand. Their budget was modest, but their product was good. I accepted the offer, scheduled the project timeline, and didn't once second-guess myself. On Sunday night, Mara messaged me. We're hosting a networking dinner next Friday. Come. You deserve the spotlight. I stared at the screen. Me? Deserve the spotlight? It was strange. How something so simple could feel so new. I typed back, I'll be there. Then I opened my closet and looked at the handful of clothes I had. None of them screamed confidence. None of them felt like her, the woman I was becoming. So the next morning, I bought a deep green dress. It wasn't flashy. But it hugged my frame, lifted my chin, and told the world I am not invisible anymore. Not someone's wife. Not someone's mother. Just Adeline. And for the first time, that felt like enough. The night of the networking dinner arrived faster than expected. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the emerald green dress I had chosen carefully. It wasn't the most expensive one in the store. But it was the first piece of clothing I had bought entirely for myself, without Declan's opinion, without Finn's sticky fingers pulling at the hem, and without a voice in my head asking, will this make me more acceptable? No. This dress wasn't about approval. It was about identity. I let my hair fall naturally and wore subtle makeup. The only accessory was a thin gold chain around my neck. I didn't need anything more. At the venue, I was greeted by Mara with a warm hug. You look incredible, she said sincerely. I'm glad you came. The space was intimate, nothing like the grand halls Declan used to host his corporate events in. No egos in suits measuring power by wine labels. Just creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and people who believed in building from scratch. People like me. I was introduced to several business owners. A florist launching her e-commerce site. A couple who ran a vegan cafe. A quiet software engineer developing an app for children with learning differences. When I spoke, they listened. Not because I carried a famous last name. But because I had ideas worth hearing. I gave feedback. Jotted down notes. Shared contacts. Mara pulled me aside near the end of the night. Adeline, I wasn't kidding. You're made for this. When I look at you, I see someone who's going to build something real, something lasting. I smiled, not because of the compliment, but because, for once, I believed it too. Meanwhile, across the city, Declan sat in his penthouse study, staring at a full glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. Fiona stood in the doorway. You're not coming to bed? He didn't answer. She walked in slowly. Still thinking about her? Declan's jaw tightened. She's at some event tonight. Business thing. Mara something. You had someone follow her? Fiona's eyes narrowed. I had Quinn check her schedule. Fiona scoffed. She's not your wife anymore, Declan. She's still Finn's mother. She's more than that now, Fiona said, almost with a smirk. You just didn't see it when you had her. Declan finally took a sip. She was soft. Too soft. No, Fiona replied. She was kind. And you mistook that for weakness. Now she's strong. And that terrifies you. Declan didn't respond. But his silence was confirmation enough. After the event, I didn't go straight home. I walked along the riverbank instead, heels in hand, the pavement cool beneath my feet. The city lights shimmered on the water's surface, and for the first time in years, I felt aligned with the world around me. Not ahead. Not behind. Just present. My phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. You looked beautiful tonight. I stared at the screen. Another buzz. I saw the photo Mara posted. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. I didn't need to ask who it was. Declan. I didn't reply. Instead, I tucked the phone into my purse and kept walking. Let him look. Let him realize what he lost. Let him see the woman who no longer begged, no longer waited, and no longer bled for his cold affection. I had nothing more to say. Because sometimes, silence is the loudest goodbye. The days after the networking event passed in quiet momentum. Projects piled up, but I welcomed the wait. Work grounded me, kept my mind away from wondering if Declan would reach out again. He didn't. Not directly. But small signs reminded me I still lived in the same world as him. A client canceled suddenly, only to return a day later, sheepishly admitting Declan's team had contacted them. One of my invoices got delayed by a bank that previously had no issue with processing. A flower delivery appeared at my office, white lilies with no card. I threw them out without hesitation. Fiona's signature scent was on the wrapping paper. So subtle. So predictable. They didn't want me back. They just wanted to know if I was still breakable. I wasn't. Finn called me on a Thursday night. Mom, guess what? What? I got a perfect score on my reading quiz. That's amazing. Dad said I should call you because you like those kinds of things. I paused. He said that? Yeah. He also asked if I wanted to invite you to the family brunch this weekend. Family brunch. I hadn't heard those words in so long that I almost laughed. Is Fiona going? I asked. Yes, then no. Finn was silent on the other end. I softened my voice. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really proud of you, but not this time. He didn't argue. Just said, okay. I get it. And for once, I think he really did. The next morning, Mara called me into a meeting. We've been invited to a corporate summit next month, she said. I want you to speak. Me? You've built a personal brand in under 3 months. You've landed 7 clients. You're mentoring freelancers. That's something people need to hear. I blinked. I'm not sure I'm ready for. You're more than ready, Adeline, she interrupted. You just haven't gotten used to being seen. She was right. For so long, I'd been background, support, scenery to someone else's spotlight. But now I was being invited to take the stage. I nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. Mara grinned. That's what I like to hear. That weekend, I took a walk through the park while the brunch I refused to attend was likely being served on white tablecloths under perfect lighting. I wasn't envious. I was free. But fate has a way of testing conviction. As I turned a corner by the lake, I saw a familiar figure sitting alone on a bench. Declan. No Fiona. No security. Just him. He looked up, and for a moment, we stared at each other like two strangers trying to place where they had met before. He stood slowly. Not as confident as I remembered. Adeline, Declan. He glanced at the bench. Sit? I hesitated. Then sat, on the far edge. He didn't touch me. Didn't even reach across the space. I came alone today, he said. Finn's with Fiona. She wanted to teach him how to make cucumber sandwiches. I raised an eyebrow. That sounds dry. He huffed a laugh. It is. A pause. I saw your name on the summit list, he finally said. I didn't know you followed marketing events. I don't. Quinn does. Of course. I just wanted to say. He trailed off, the words clearly unfamiliar in his mouth. I underestimated you. I looked out at the lake. You never really tried to estimate me at all. That's fair, he admitted. Another silence. Then he said, Do you hate me? I turned to him. No. Hating you would still mean I cared. His jaw flexed slightly. I just want to be part of Finn's life, I added. But only on my terms. No more silent wars. No more subtle threats. And definitely no more lilies. He gave a tight nod. Understood. He stood, looking somehow taller and smaller at the same time. Congratulations, Adeline. On everything. I didn't say thank you. He didn't expect me to. He walked away slowly. And I didn't look back. Because now, finally, I was looking forward. The summit hall was grand, glass ceilings, soft lighting, and a buzzing crowd dressed in tailored ambition. I stood behind the curtain, fingers wrapped around the edge of my note cards, heart beating in a calm, even rhythm. 3 months ago, I was kneeling beside Finn's bed, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. 2 months ago, I was buying secondhand furniture and boiling rice in silence. 1 month ago, I was debating if I even had a voice worth hearing. Now, I was about to walk on stage. Not as Declan's wife. Not as anyone's background character. But as Adeline, founder of Aster and Ember Digital. A woman who had built her own identity from ashes. Mara gave me a reassuring smile from the first row. The host introduced me. I stepped out, heels clicking against polished floors, green dress flowing like calm defiance. The lights didn't blind me. They welcomed me. I took the mic and spoke. 3 months ago, I signed my name on a blank page. A divorce document, yes, but more than that, it was a resignation letter. I quit pretending I was happy. I quit living on the sidelines. At the time, I didn't know what came next. But I knew one thing, starting over doesn't mean starting from nothing. Because even pain teaches us something. Even silence prepares us to listen. Even rejection gives us clarity. I spoke for 12 minutes. I ended with, "Today, I run a business. But more importantly, I run my life. On my terms. No more apologies. No more waiting for permission." The applause was real, standing, warm, loud. I stepped off the stage lighter than I had felt in years. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. I watched the live stream. "I always thought you were soft. I never realized soft could be steel. D." I didn't reply. But I smiled. The following week, Finn came to visit again, this time by choice. He had his backpack, a crooked grin, and 2 mismatched socks. "I missed you," he said, hugging me without shame. I made him ginger tea with honey. He asked if I could help him with a school project. "Sure," I said. He lit up. We sat together, coloring a poster on ocean animals, his tiny fingers clutching crayons as he talked about sharks and jellyfish and Fiona's failed attempt at baking. "She doesn't know how to use a mixer," he whispered. I laughed. "Well, that takes practice." "She's not like you," he said. I paused. "That's okay. She doesn't have to be." "But I'm glad you're my mom," he said, looking up at me. "Even if you're not here every day." I swallowed hard. "Thank you, Finn." He returned to coloring. I watched him and realized, this, too, was healing. Not perfection. Not constant affection. But honest connection. Later that night, I got an email. Subject, investment opportunity. From Quinn Harrington. Adeline. Mr. Declan would like to offer a potential investment in Aster and Ember Digital. As a gesture of recognition. No conditions attached. Let us know if you're open to discussing. I stared at the message. Recognition. Not reconciliation. Not manipulation. Just acknowledgement. I didn't delete it. But I didn't reply either. Some things don't need closure. Some things are the closure. Because the truth is, I didn't want his money. I already had something more valuable. Myself. And this time, I was never giving her up again. A week after the summit, the emails didn't stop. Not from Declan. From everywhere else. Startups, nonprofits, influencers, women-owned brands. All reaching out after seeing the talk. All wanting me to help build them. It felt surreal. Not because I didn't think I could do it. But because now, finally, they believed it too. I moved into a larger office. Nothing fancy, but filled with sunlight and whiteboards covered in ideas. I hired a part-time assistant named Kira, who wore glasses too big for her face and always brought muffins. "You're really calm for someone who built a company in under a quarter," she told me one day. I smiled. I've already been through worse. Because once you've survived silence in a mansion, success in a studio feels like music. Finn began staying over more frequently, sometimes for the weekend. He asked fewer questions now. Stop comparing me to Fiona. We planted a lemon tree on my balcony. It was his idea. Because lemon trees are strong, he said. And they make stuff that tastes better than it starts. It was the most poetic thing I'd ever heard him say. One Saturday afternoon, as we painted pots for the tree, Finn glanced at me and asked, "Do you love Dad?" The question didn't sting like it once might have. I thought about it, then answered honestly. I don't hate him. Finn nodded slowly, as if that was enough. And maybe, for a 5-year-old, it was. Then he asked, "Do you love yourself now?" I looked at him, my heart folding at the edges. "Yes," I said. He smiled. "Cool. I think I do too." Meanwhile, in a high-rise office across the city, Declan sat at the head of a boardroom table, but his mind was elsewhere. Quinn noticed. "She's doing well," he said cautiously. Declan didn't respond. She built something strong. With no help. Still nothing. Then finally, Declan muttered, "I thought she'd break." Quinn looked at him. "She did. You just weren't there to see it. And when she put herself back together, you weren't needed anymore." Declan's fist clenched. "She never really wanted money, you know," Quinn added. "She wanted to be seen. You only saw her when she left." Declan stared out the window. That was the thing about some storms. By the time you notice they're gone, they've already cleared a path for someone else to grow. The night before the biggest client pitch of my career, I stood in front of the mirror, wearing a navy blazer and confidence like a second skin. Finn sat on the couch, building Legos. "Are you nervous?" he asked. "A little." "You shouldn't be. You're like the boss of everything." I laughed. "Not everything. Just the things that matter to me." He tilted his head. "Do I matter to you?" I turned and walked over, kneeling in front of him. "You were the first thing that ever mattered." He hugged me tight. And just like that, every scar earned its place. That night, I dreamed I was standing in the Declan estate again. The halls were quiet. The lights dim. And Fiona stood at the door holding a suitcase. "I thought you left," she said. "I did," I replied. "Then why are you back?" "I'm not," I said. "This is just memory." I turned to leave again. And when I looked back, the house had vanished. All that was left was the road ahead. And I kept walking. The day of the biggest pitch of my career began not with anxiety, but stillness. I woke before the sun, brewed my coffee, and stood barefoot on the balcony beside the lemon tree Finn and I had planted. The city buzzed below me, but I wasn't part of the noise. I was the silence that moved it. The client was a major name in sustainability tech, bigger than any I'd handled before. Their boardroom overlooked half the city, but when I walked in, I didn't feel small. I felt inevitable. I presented for 20 minutes, clear, measured, confident. When I finished, one of the partners leaned forward and said, "We expected a team of 5. You came alone." I smiled. "I'm never alone. I carry every lesson I had to survive to get here." They nodded. They signed. A 6-month contract. 7 figures. When I stepped outside, my phone buzzed. A single message. From Declan, "Congratulations. I always knew you were capable. I just didn't know it would be without me." I stared at the screen. Then I deleted the message. Not out of bitterness, but because I had no space left in my life for the people who only saw my worth after I walked away. That evening, Finn and I celebrated with lemon cake and a silly movie. He wore pajamas with stars on them and insisted on sleeping on the couch. Halfway through the movie, he looked up at me and asked, "Is this the part where the mom goes back to the castle?" I laughed. "No, sweetheart. This mom doesn't go back. Ever? Never." "Good," he said. That place was cold anyway. I kissed the top of his head and let the credits roll. In the weeks that followed, the growth didn't stop. My face appeared on a feature for Women in Business Weekly. I was invited to join a mentor circle for rising female entrepreneurs. Aster and Ember expanded to a team of 4. And one morning, I woke up to an envelope at my doorstep. No return address. Inside, A photo. Me, Finn, and our lemon tree. On the back, scrawled in a familiar hand. You were always the fire. I was just too cold to see it. I closed the envelope and placed it in a drawer. That story was over. Months later, at another conference, someone asked me during a Q&A. If you could go back to the beginning, would you change anything? I thought about it. The silence. The shame. The birthday wish that broke me. The mission. The system. The coma. The betrayal. And then I smiled. No, I said. Because the woman I am now, she needed all of it to be born. So I didn't go back to Declan. I didn't rebuild the past. I built me. And this time, I didn't just survive. I stayed gone. And in doing so, I finally arrived.